Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Welcome, everybody, to the next chapter with Charlie. Now, I have two guests today, my good friend Terry Hershey and another guest you have seen before, immigration attorney Devin Chatterton. You know, much is being written and broadcast today about immigrant deportations in the United States. Now, whether you agree or not with the policy, we cannot escape one deeply troubling truth, and that is the people. So that's why our discussion today is not about policy per se, but about the human lives impacted by this policy. And I just think too many of us don't hear the stories of the human lives, the depths of people's lives, the fears and who they are. And we just cannot live with the fact that people cannot be diminished by what feels like an inhuman policy. And so I want you to judge for yourself in this lively discussion. Remember, I'll say it in a bit. I'll give our party affiliations in a bit. So Terry Hershey, Devin Chatterton, welcome to the next chapter with Charlie.
Charles.
You can say hi.
Hi.
Hi. So, one thing I wanted to make, I am, and it has shocked Devin when she found out I was a moderate Republican. She was utterly shocked. And the two of you are not moderately Republican. I'm not sure what you are, but you're not Republican. That's for sure. But our party differences have absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. What we're talking about are the issues of how people are treated. And the three of us, no matter what the party affiliation, we are stubbornly people-centric in the way we live our lives. So let's be clear. For all of us, I have no interest today in debating political parties or leaders of parties. Instead, I want to focus on the realistic horrors people are facing in deportation. So Devin, I thought we would start with you and let you begin this discussion by offering for us a general description of the fearful people of Mexican or Latin descent who face deportation and ICE on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think at this moment in time, a lot of immigrants and rather non-citizens who arrive at the border or who have been in the United States for a very long time, especially lately, their lives have been so plagued by the large, extensive presence of ICE. And that is not just ICE agents as we formerly knew them or in the post that we formerly saw them in, but it's become a far more broad-reaching enforcement arm of this administration. And so that has permeated to every facet of life for these people. That has impacted whether they send their children to school. That has impacted whether they will continue to work, if they can afford to not continue to work. It has impacted labor. It has impacted our employment, just our job field in the United States. It really has permeated every facet of life for these people, especially when you know that anytime you leave your house or anytime you leave your home, there is a possibility that you could be apprehended. There's a possibility that your husband, your brother, your son, your loved one could also be apprehended. And that is just completely life-changing, even in the smallest regard. So yeah, it's a very different climate and a very different way of life for a lot of people who, whether they have just only recently arrived here or whether they've been here for decades.
So you're talking about impacting life. I would like to describe that. I don't think, we get that. I mean, we hear now when we say we get that, we don't get that We hear that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think for many people, myself included, until I really started pondering what that means is that I wake up in the morning and as a kid, I'm going to school. I don't know if I'm going to face agents trying to get me. I don't know if my mom or dad are going to come home for the day. It's just, the fears are just inhuman. I mean, it's just, it's hard to believe it's happening in the United States.
Well, start with the story that just happened in upstate, not upstate, but in New York, not very far from the Bronx. But because we were just talking before the show, baseball. You guys knew each other from Little League baseball. So
Right.
This is a Little League coach, a Little League team in the Bronx. We're talking the kind of quality of Little League that you used to coach. This is a group that since he's coached it for 15, 20 years or whatever, he's had 26 of his kids become Major League Baseball players.
No way.
Yeah. So the point is,
He's a good coach.
this is a good coach and a good team. The coach is African American. Many of his kids are from a variety of countries.
Of course.
A variety of countries. So they were rated by ICE. The kids were
The
at
baseball team?
the team during practice. So a lot of it has to do with several of them. They all have different stories, and they're from countries that the kids their parents may or may not be. But the point is that these ICE agents were asking the individual children. So this is this coach now to camera talking about to your story. What do you do now as a coach? And what he actually was he stepped in and said, no, do not touch these children, etc. Here's your rights. Here's what the rights are, etc., etc., etc. So the thing about that with the human story is the inhumanity that becomes a part of the process. That's what's actually chilling. And the one story that comes to me, and she can tell more stories, but in my world, in the church world, the number of parishes, and for those because I'm not Catholic, but I work with Catholics, as you know, quite profoundly.
A lot, yeah.
To go to Eucharist, which means communion, that you can't skip it. That's to be a Catholic. That's your grace for the day. And sometimes you can do it for a week. But some Catholics cannot, I'm talking your area, LA, cannot go to the church because ICE has camped out at their parish. And they've had to get permission from their archbishop that they can skip Eucharist.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm appalled, and I'm going to make a strong attempt at not being appalled, but just data gathering and fact gathering, because I can just go, holy shit, really, at a fucking church? Excuse me, God.
Yeah,
but this is
in lots
what's
of
that? Yeah, this is deplorable. And that's what and they're at the ICE agents show up at places where they know illegal people are going to be, even illegal trying to go through the process of getting legal. That's where they hang out.
Devin would know this. Don't they arrest people even when they're at the office? I mean,
Yeah. So right now we're seeing a lot of in a large increase of arresting non-citizens at their interviews, whether they are applying for asylum, whether they are interviewing to become a citizen, and they're at the last final step of becoming a citizen, which is a very, very lengthy process. I think people don't quite understand that. Anyone who's been through it, this is like a decades long process. This is a very arduous process and very expensive and very worrying. There's a lot on the line, and yeah, people are getting arrested there. There's also a newer policy in this administration, which is that they are allowing a lot of DHS attorneys in court to dismiss cases or to offer to dismiss cases.
DHS,
and so,
I know there's a common acronym, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, DHS is just the Department of Homeland Security. So
Okay.
everything that is under everything is under the Department of Homeland Security. You have immigration court, you have the asylum office, you have border patrol, you have ICE agents, you have everything is under DHS. And they also have trial attorneys. So the trial attorneys are my opposing counsel in court. So I'm representing the non-citizen. They are representing the government. They are now frequently offering to dismiss cases, which at the outset it seems like a very nice and humanitarian thing to do for people who are in court, and they are doing it under the guise of when someone is not in court anymore, they now can detain them. And so they will detain that person, and there's another way by which they are essentially
So wait a minute. So so they're dismissing cases so they can detain. So you call it detaining. It's like arresting them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Charlie, let me
Exactly.
tell you it this way. Devin is representing you in court right now, and you've been doing this now for several years. She's right, years. And you are so happy because you're about to get a hearing that's taking you to the next step. You're this close. And then she hears, she hears that the other side dismissed your case, and you're not, because you don't know what that means. She does, but you don't, which means
It sounds, no, that's not bitching. That sounds like I can no longer present my case to the judge.
No, but that means the ICE people can arrest you in the hallway right now.
But also the other side means I
so
can't even present my case. It's like,
No.
and I want
exactly.
to present don't I want to be in court?
Yes, exactly. So what they're doing right now is they have expanded this definition of expedited removal. And essentially what that means is anyone who in the past, anyone who arrived at the border, you could do sort of a quasi hearing on your case very quickly. No, there weren't any attorneys. You're not in front of a judge. You're in front of an officer. They kind of go over your case and they'll say, your case doesn't really have a lot of merit. We're going to deport you. So that way that person doesn't even enter the United States. They are at the border and then getting turned away. Now they have expanded that definition for who is eligible for that type of a quasi hearing to be anyone who has been in the United States for less than 2 years. So what they are doing is they are finding people who are in court who have come to the border and who are seeking and trying to adjudicate their case in court, which is exactly what you're supposed to do under the law. And they are saying, well, now we want to dismiss your case. And that way, when we do detain you after, you have no right to see a judge. You have no right to have counsel. You have no right to an attorney. So now you will be doing this in the shadows. And that is the point of that. They want you to, they're trying to prevent people from presenting their case in court so that they can adjudicate it much faster and they can adjudicate it with a lot less due process.
And you can't even appeal that dismissal. That's not something you can appeal. No, I don't want my case dismissed.
No, because it's a different type of order. It's just getting rid of the case. It's not denying their case. It's just dismissing their case. So if they denied a case, if the judge denied the case, that is something you could appeal. This is not. This is a different thing. But you can also, just for your information, you can also detain people who are in court. You don't have to not be in court to be detained. And so that's why we're seeing people get arrested off the street. You're seeing people, car washes get raided. You're seeing people just randomly being approached by like unmarked cars with people who have their face covered and getting kidnapped off the street. Like anyone can be detained. This is just a very fast way of detaining people and knowing that arresting people and knowing that when they arrest people, they're not going to a court. They're not going to see a judge. They're not going to have a lawyer. And so they know that is a very quick way to deport people as fast as possible.
So this means the prosecution, they've got to find a judge who is sympathetic to this view, because I'm sure there are judges that understand exactly what's going on and they're saying, no, I'm not playing this. Or
in fact, it is the opposite.
Yeah.
There are almost every single judge is okay with this. Almost every single judge puts their hands up and says, well, like I said before, everything is under the branch of DHS, but I'm over here. And what ICE does, they're over there. So I'm doing my job. If the government wants to dismiss, I'll allow it to dismiss. If this person steps out of my courtroom and gets arrested, that is not on me. That has nothing to do with me. So it's actually the opposite. A lot of judges are completely fine with this. They also are preventing or not allowing people to appear via Zoom. There's a way to do hearings via Zoom where you don't have to actually show up to court. Judges are saying, nope, you have to come to court, and you being afraid of being arrested by ICE is not a good enough reason to miss court. So the other thing in immigration law, which is important to understand, is if you do not show up to a court hearing as an immigrant, you are automatically ordered deported from the United States immediately. So you're essentially giving people no choice. You're saying you either don't show up and you will get a deportation order, and then ICE will come track you down and effectuate that order, or you show up and it's possible we're going to arrest you anyway.
And
So,
they're waiting outside the courtroom or inside the
yes.
courtroom.
Yes, exactly.
Will they be waiting inside the courtroom?
I think sometimes they have, but it depends. I mean, a lot of due process violations in this country happen when there are no lawyers present. So if you have a courtroom of a lot of immigrants who are non-represented, I don't think they would not know enough to even understand what is happening, let alone ask the judge to close the courtroom to ICE. They probably don't even know that the people in the back are ICE if they're
Sure.
dressed as plain clothes. So it's a lot of confusion, and that confusion is deliberate.
This is, I had no idea. This is all new stuff. I had no idea. I'm wondering what have I gotten myself into with this show? This is deplorable. What are,
Yeah.
I mean, we're going in directions that I wanted to tell personal stories, but we don't need to tell personal stories.
Well,
We can,
but just so Ken Burns was doing a podcast yesterday, a historian,
okay.
and he was doing it about a variety of things. I mean, they touched on stuff that's going on just literally in our country now. But
Uh-huh.
Ken Burns, this is a Richard Powers quote. Richard Powers is a novelist, but his quote was, "The best arguments in the world won't change a person's mind. The only thing that can do that is a good story." And the whole point about that is, let me tell you a story about a person. Here's the person's name. Here's where they came from. Here's the process they went through. Here's what happened. I mean, once I know that
So
story,
are you going to tell me that?
I can tell you a story.
Tell me a story. I want to hear a story along with all of this.
Well, I can tell you a story about a young man that I know and have known for almost 40 years. And he came to the United States from Mexico because he wanted to make some money for his family. And he was not allowed. There was two things for him. You say he should have done it according to the whatever the right way law-wise. She mentioned two things. One, it takes a staggering long time, and two, it takes a staggering amount of money. And the third thing, you ready
Like
for
how,
this?
what is a staggering amount of money? What would you, Devin, what would you guess?
Back then it was 30 grand.
30 grand?
Yeah,
30 grand?
that's what it was back then.
Terry, 95% of Americans could not afford 30 grand.
Yeah, so here's the other odd thing about Jose, because maybe people don't know. I mean, I'm clergy. That's what I do for a living. But my other job, I'm also a landscape architect. I did that. So I've done garden designs now for close to 40 years. And virtually everyone who has worked for me in the industry is from either Mexico or Venezuela or Guatemala. Three.
Guatemala, yeah.
And anyway, any of the three. But the point is, Jose, when he came to the country to work, he was not allowed to come in because he was going to be taking a job that a U.S. citizen could have, which was garden work. This is the humorous part about this. Because a U.S. citizen could take that job, he was not allowed to take it.
Well, what kind of job could he take that a U.S. citizen wouldn't take?
Oh,
Because a U.S. citizen can take any job.
that's part of the deal here, Charlie.
Yeah. Yeah. I think once you really get into it, and especially once you look at the history of how immigration law has developed over hundreds of years, you do tend to find over and over and over again that these laws and these policies are purposefully created in a way that prevents the most amount of people from lawfully entering and becoming US citizens. The the best way of thinking about it is a way to safeguard and to stop immigration law is
Hmm.
it's wild, it's wild, but that is the main purpose of it. And so yeah, like there are, like you said, like there just are so many walls that are continuously built, and that is to prevent people from coming in whatever way that might be, financially or something just really heinous, like separating families or whatever. All of it is a deterrent to prevent people from coming to the United States.
Yeah, and to your point, Charlie, about that's why there's so many people can immigrate relatively easily for high tech jobs, because there's certain high tech jobs that certain Americans are not going to take or have.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
but
Oh, so if you're so
if you're from Pakistan or India,
yeah, I
you
didn't
have a
want
certain skill set.
I didn't want to get countries of origins, but you know, if you're Asian, you got a job.
Yeah.
Asian smart.
Yeah, the thing with Jose is there wasn't an option for him. There were no options for him, but he made money. And back in those days, 30, 40 years ago, he would work here for several months, and then he would cross back over the border to be with his family and give them money.
Give
And
them money.
yeah, and then he could just cross back over. Back then, 35 years ago, you could cross back and forth. Um, that doesn't happen now. That can't happen now. He lives in the United States now. He has a business, has had a business, um, a proud owner of a business here in Washington State. He's been a tax paying person for himself for 30, whatever it is, 35, 40 years, the time he's been here. And now he pays taxes as a business, state taxes and federal taxes as a business.
And is he fearful of ICE?
Yes. And so one of the things that happened, because uh, Devin wouldn't know this part, but I've lived on an island up here in Seattle, so it's enclosed, and everyone knows everybody on the island, and so it's a big deal for people who are watching out for ICE people, because we know everybody on the island who's jeopardized.
Mhm.
And so to your point, Charlie, is we know it's time to call so and so, do so and so. Where can we put them? Where can they go? And a lot of it has to do with people with kids too. It's kids and parents.
So you have a lot of people that will put them in their homes, come and stay here.
There is a systematic organization, a community organization, to be protective.
How long has this existed? Is this a recent administration deal, or has this always been? It's been around, but just it's not been to this degree or been this publicized.
With regard
The
to what?
the deep, you know, the fear of deportation and coming out and trying to trying to disincent people from immigrating because of this. If this is an anti-immigration process, how long has this been going on? Is this just they said, "Oh my God, look at what we have. We have an anti-immigration thing going on here." Has that always been that way?
I think it's always been that way. I think now the methods by which they are, um, trying to prevent and deter people from entering are different than what they have used in the past. And they are getting, for lack of a better word, very creative, both legally and morally,
Well,
with
just what you
how
said,
they
the
are going back.
dismissal in court, that is a
Mhm.
creative.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt that, yeah, if, it's interesting because I think, not to get too political, but I think there is this common phrase on the right, which is, do it the legal way and go about it the legal way. And also this wildly inaccurate stereotype that there are a lot of criminals coming in. There are these two things, right? Do it legally, and also there are so many criminals that are coming in. We want to protect our kids. We want to protect our wives. We want to protect our country.
It's an argument, and if I may, it's an argument that makes. I know it's total bullshit, but
Yeah,
the
complete.
argument makes it. It hits our buttons, or it hits.
Absolutely. And if that were the case, they could have used their creativity to crack down on people who are non-citizens who are committing crime. They could be using this creativity and all this effort to go after people who are not going to court, who are not showing up for their appointments, who don't have pending applications. But they're specifically not doing that because that is not the goal. The goal was never, we want to protect our country. The goal was never, we care about people who are committing crimes on our soil. The goal is not do it the right way because that's the American dream and we should all be lawful citizens. The goal is to keep people out. That is the underlying goal that they cannot say, but that is what all of this incentive, all of these policies, all of these procedures, that is it. Because why, if you're so concerned about criminals, why are you arresting people who are at their citizenship interview? Which, by the way, you can't get there with a serious criminal record. You cannot get to that point. So these people are not criminals, and that they're at the lawful point. They are so close to becoming citizens, and yet that's who you're targeting?
Yeah.
That's not the same message. That's not at all the same message.
And children, too, to your point.
Yes. So yeah, I think, if the true goal of immigration safety or immigration reform or anything like that were these things, we would be seeing very different policies than what we are currently seeing. And these are policies that we have not seen. I think the first iteration of Trump, when he started separating families at the border, that was a really heinous thing. People had a huge outcry over that. Now we are seeing smaller versions of that, different versions of that, on just so much more widespread of a scale. Like the number of people who are detained every single day means those people are separated from their family, and that will just continue. That is not, it's not receiving the same level of outcry because there are not children being put in cages. Nevertheless, there's still that amount of psychological and prolonged trauma on that family forever.
I'm going to ask Devin a question too, because what hits me now, this is back to your question, Charlie, about what's going on. So, I don't know the immigration legal stuff that's going on. What I do know is that now, and with the current view of the people who are doing this kind of stuff, right now, the depersonalization, the dehumanization is real. That's brand new. That these are not people. And there's that
Right.
the non-people part. And I'm just saying for you, Devin, in your practice, when you see that on the other side now, it's probably hard to watch. And yet, to your point, but they're doing it in a way that they're utilizing the law, but utilizing the law, but simply to reinforce cruelty and dehumanization.
Yeah. And that has been a change that, I don't think has been seen. I've only been practicing for 9 years, but I think colleagues of mine who've been practicing for a lot longer, they also haven't seen like this level of trickery, for lack of a better word, this level of like legal magic that they are able to do. And like another example of that, just so you guys are aware, is that so once you are detained, once you're in jail in ICE custody, you are eligible for bond, which is same thing as bail in criminal court. And so you have to have a hearing. You have to show that you've been in the United States, that you're not going to, you're going to show up to your court hearings, and that you're not a danger. However, there are certain laws that prevent certain people from getting bond. So for instance, if you were convicted of a certain crime and then you go to ICE custody, sometimes you're not eligible for bond. You just aren't. You have to stay detained. However, one of the categories that are not eligible for bond is a category called an arriving alien. And so that is anyone who has just arrived to the United States. So in the past, people who like arrived right at the border being like, I'm going to seek asylum, or, you know, I'm here to come into the United States. The US government thought, like, we don't know enough about these people. We don't know enough to judge how much bond we should set for them. It's too tricky of a procedure, whatever. They're not eligible for bond, right? So they have to remain detained while their case goes on.
Okay.
Since this new administration, they have expanded their definition to who is arriving as the arriving alien, and they are now saying that anyone who has entered illegally, so anyone who has crossed the border without permission, if they are apprehended at any time in the United States, that is them arriving. So we now have people.
Is that the 2 year? Is that the 2 year limit you were talking about before?
That's the 2 year thing, is whether or not you are in front of a judge for your case. So that's to get people away from a courtroom. This is to say whether we can detain you indefinitely, whether we can just keep you in a cell while your case goes on, or whether you have the right to see a judge to figure out, is there an amount of money that we feel comfortable if you left with an ankle monitor and you paid, you know, X thousands of dollars, we would feel comfortable with you leaving. But now we are seeing people who have been here undocumented for decades, who they are saying, well, they're not eligible for that because they're now arriving. They're an arriving alien. And so that is like a level of legal, again, trickery and deceit and you know, argument that we have not seen before, because obviously, even in the plain language, as I'm explaining to you now, the person is not arriving in the United States. They've had an address in the United States for decades. They've lived here, they've worked here, they own businesses here, anything like that. Just because they are undocumented does not mean they are arriving today in the year 2025 to the United States. And the government is taking the position that, yes, they are.
And it's treating them as such.
Yes. And so now they are ineligible for bond, which then puts you in a position of, do I stay in a cell where I can't afford, I'm not, no one's paying my bills for me, I'm not going to work, I'm not taking care of my children, do I want to stay here for months at a time to fight my case, or do I accept a deport order and go back to my country of origin and try to make the best of it? It's a very, very difficult decision. And the reason why they are doing all this legal loopholes and trying to, these very creative arguments, is because, again, they are trying to dissuade and trying to deter people from actually fighting their case and staying in the United States. It doesn't seem like it's that, it might seem in theory like, wow, that's a toss up. But for a lot of people, they don't have, like, I've had people who are in detention calling me saying, but I don't understand, like, if I'm here, who's like, how is my wife going to pay the bills? How are my children going to get to school?
Right.
Then I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And so then it's really not much of a choice. They have to leave detention. They have to get out of there. So yeah, that's the difficult thing about being in immigration currently, is there's so much of these, like loopholes that they're finding, this like legal trickery, these weird arguments, and judges are very quick to uphold it.
It's very similar, Charlie, to the church world of what we call Pharisaicalism, you know, Pharisees, because you could find the loopholes and you can, and you do it in a judgmental sort of way because you're keeping the ones out. The other question I have, I mean, I know you're asking the questions, but the thing that
No, go ahead.
The thing that hits me is that this is also a racial issue because it's focused only on certain colors.
I was just going to ask that. Is this is sounding very anti-Latin, anti-Mexican, very anti-Mexican, and the Latins are then included because it's largely Mexican population, but very anti-Mexican.
Yeah, and I'd like to have, I mean, I want to throw Devin another question here too, because, you know, in some of the Central American countries, the people are trying to get here because they're escaping war and all kinds of crazy.
Venezuela.
Yeah, Venezuela, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we are at a point where, you know, currently there has to be, Currently, there is a temporary restraining order in the Ninth Circuit that is preventing racial profiling by ICE agents because that is what has been happening for the last couple of months. That has never had to be put in place before because we have not seen racial profiling on a level like this previously. There's a reason why they are going to car washes. There's a reason why they are going to Home Depot and Lowe's parking lots. There's a reason why they are going to immigration court. Like they know exactly what they're doing. And it is a very scary time. I mean, I am half Mexican. My mom is Mexican, and I very much, I would say, take after my dad's white side. Some people think I look Latina, but a lot of people don't. And I think I am very white passing. My brother is not the same. My brother is he looks very Mexican, and
Right.
he has an
Never
international
thought about
trip.
that, but I tell you how
Yeah.
beautiful that is for me, because as well as I know Trent, I've never thought about him looking Mexican because I don't think in those terms. Yet,
Yeah,
as you
sure.
describe it, he does, doesn't he?
Yes, yes. He's multiple shades darker than I am. Very
Multiple.
much, yeah, he's like the same shade of skin as my mom and her brothers, who obviously are Mexican. They look Mexican. And yeah, he has an international trip coming up that he's going on to go surfing with some buddies. And I told
Wow.
him, like, you need to bring a copy of your birth certificate when you're coming back. You need to be carrying
Not
a
just
copy
your
of your birth
passport.
certificate. No. And I said, you need to be carrying a copy of your birth certificate in your car if you ever are arrested or pulled over. It does not matter anymore that you were born in, Orange, California. It's not, no one cares. No one cares that you don't speak Spanish. No one cares that you won't, that you're saying you're a US citizen or that you were born here. That doesn't do anything anymore. So luckily, my phone number is not a phone number he needs to memorize. He will have it memorized, but it really breaks my heart, and it's really difficult. I've had multiple friends who are very Hispanic looking come up to me and say, like, what do I do if I get
Mm.
arrested? Because I look like I could be. I look like I could be an immigrant that they're targeting, and it's hard to give advice on that. It's most likely you will, if they want to arrest you because they think that you are here illegally, they
I
will
have
do that.
I have one technical question and one moral question. My technical question is for Devin. Is I keep reading about it, but I don't know what the Ninth Circuit is. What does that mean? Is that like a high
Oh,
court? What is that?
yes. So sorry about that. So there are state courts and there are federal courts. So state courts are like, you get a traffic ticket, or you commit a crime in Orange County. You're going to the Orange County court. You have a Orange County district attorney, whatever. Federal courts are different. So federal courts are broken down into circuits in the United States. So the Ninth Circuit has California, Nevada, I believe Washington and Arizona. Don't quote me on that, but it's like a section of states, California included. But it's federal policy.
But it's sort
So
of
that,
west.
yes, exactly. So the Ninth Circuit, yeah, that is our circuit that controls. And so if things are law in the Ninth Circuit, that will be the law for immigration court moving forward. So if something happens in the Ninth Circuit and they say, all immigrants XYZ or all immigrants in court XYZ, that applies to me practicing immigration court in California.
I said I didn't want to get in. I didn't want to get into policy, but I can't help it, and I'm going to do my best not to name names, but everybody listening knows and who we're talking about. But isn't I mean, we are a country of immigrants. I mean, we are. I mean, we are all
Yeah.
immigrants.
Charlie.
Unless you are Native American.
Yeah, it was good. Charlie.
Yeah, like all five of us.
Yeah.
But
All what?
all five of us that are Native Americans.
No,
I'm
I'm just
joking.
saying the Native Americans this is their country. We took it from
Yeah,
them.
yeah. But the United States is composed of immigrants, and there was a belief that immigrants brought something. They offered something just in their desire to better themselves. They offered the country just something in their passion to get better, to contribute to their families, and that would contribute socially. And now it's gone to where, you said early on, Terry, that the government does not want people who would take jobs away from Americans. You know, but we're allowing people in that can contribute to our GDP. We're not at all allowing people in that can contribute to the moral, to the discipline, that can contribute to hard working. I mean, you look at the Hispanic, Latin, Mexican profile. I mean, I'm looking at the hardest workers I know. I mean, I
Hands
don't,
down.
if I don't,
Hands down.
I don't know lazy Mexicans. I'm sure there are lazy Mexicans, but there's that, but it's just, and I wonder, you're the fact finder, Terry. Are there any facts on the populations of people that send money home, immigrant population that send money home? Is there anybody that compares with the Hispanic population of sending money back to their country to support families because their families are so poor that $50 a month will go a long way for their family? Do
The
other
only
nationalities do that?
I don't know the answer to that because my stories are with the Hispanic community in all my industries that I work with, including, and then the churches that I work with too. It's primarily Hispanic communities, but the answer to that question is yes. Every single one of them I know sends money home.
Yeah,
Every
I think a
single one.
lot of yeah, I think a lot of immigrants do that. Even I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Like I've had clients who are from Jamaica. I've had clients who are
Yeah,
from Belize,
sure.
clients who are from
Yeah,
the Philippines. Like that's a really strong
yeah.
thing in the Filipino community. So I think that's just kind of
But
I don't know.
that's still, I don't think, I'm not even familiar with Belize, but Puerto Rican, I consider that kind of Latin, that, maybe but, it's people that, maybe what it is people that are coming from
You,
poverty,
yeah. You have to.
and
Yeah,
they have families in
that's a whole
history of
different
poverty.
subject. You should do a whole new podcast on that sometime because
Do a
yeah,
whole
yeah.
podcast on what?
You should do just the way as a white person can just call everybody who is brown skinned
I
Hispanic or
know. Yeah,
Mexican as
yeah.
in
So
Yep.
I'm obviously speaking like
and
a white guy,
and
but
you
I
should.
can't help it because that's what I am, man. I am a white guy and I have my perceptions, and I'm eager to be corrected.
I'm going to write that down. Charlie is eager to be corrected.
Well, that's true.
I know it's true. That's why
That's
I
who
think.
I
But you know what,
am.
Charlie?
That's who I am.
The moral question. The moral question goes back to our own history because it's the two sides of. I mean, we have a good side to us, and then we have a very dark side to us. I mean, when we came over here, the immigrants came from a variety of countries, and
Right.
and they settled
Right.
in different states, and the states didn't get along with each other because they settled their own little group of
Sure.
people.
Sure.
And one of the
They
things
had
that
their own little
happened
fiefdoms.
some of them were escaping something, some of them were just coming to something, but there's a part of them that it's like the question was always asked, who are we keeping out? I mean, we're glad to be here, but then there's always the question of who are we keeping out? And when we see that now, when I see that question now, when it's connected with a racial component, then it's scary to me. I mean, it's scary to me. This happened to me. I mean, this would be our years when I was in college. This would be for any friend, anybody I had who was black, African American.
Right.
You were lucky if you were in.
Right.
And I see I see this now. The cruelty now is hard to watch
Yeah.
with his
I think it's also
with
fascinating. Oh, sorry. I think it's also fascinating, Charlie, you were saying how the question was, how could we or why would we want to keep out people who are contributing so much to the United States? I think the other question too that is fascinating is to flip it and to say, well, who are we who have been so lucky and privileged to have grown up and been born in the United States? Why do we feel that we are so much more deserving of this? Like, what have we done to earn or to deserve living here? And truly, nothing. We have just been lucky. So I think it's fascinating that through that luck, we are now saying, well, we should have the choice and we should decide who now gets to come in.
And
That's a good insight.
what if we
That's
take a whole different view instead of
yeah.
looking instead of this is my influence of Richard Rohr and the Center of Action and Contemplation. What are we doing interested in how they can serve us when we should be saying, really, we should be saying, how can we serve them? How can we help them improve? Like, that's what I'm doing with Higher Ground. I was just working with the CEO of this charity, and we're talking about building up the confidence and capability and hope of people who don't have it. How can we serve them to accomplish what they would like to accomplish in their lives and it's just this grand circle of everybody serving everybody serving the common good, but some people need help in serving the common good, and if we can do that, then they're on their own. And what do they do then once they've gotten it? He came from that kind of family background, and now what is he doing? He's leading an organization that's serving people
Yeah.
because he came from needing to be served.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I mean, we could go on for a long time, but I really feel like we've got a good energy point, and I kind of would like to wrap the show up right now, if that's okay with you guys. Does anybody have a? I feel like I'm Barry Weiss or Krista Tippett. Does anybody have any closing comments? I've never done that.
I will just say, I know people of all different beliefs and all different political ideologies listen to this show, and I think it's really important to, as much as possible, not play into the hand of blaming certain groups or certain people for very, very large systemic issues that are happening, whether that's crime, whether that's lack of employment, whether that's climate change or whatever. I think it's so easy, to have a solution and to have an anger or hatred or a blame onto a group of people. That is a very, very easy way to do it. And that's a very neat, nice bow way to tie it up. And I would just implore, people to do their best to maybe pause when thinking like that and try to have a more open mind as to what could be the root of this. Because there are so many issues, but there are also so many reasons why those issues exist. It's very, very rare that you find a solution to a problem. It is just with one group or one person, and that is it, and there's nothing else. So that is the message I will leave on.
Terry, you got anything? You, Devin? Do you have anything?
No, that's really good. My whole thing is you never know who's hurting. You never know who needs something. You never know who's scared. You never know who's on the lookout. And so I am always watchful
Yeah.
to lend a helping hand when I can. The word sanctuary is a big word for me because that's what I write about. But to create an emotional sanctuary if I can. I mean, what Devin does in her job is to create literally an emotional sanctuary for people. And so, but we can do it individually too, where we can be listeners and be open in our listening, but then we can create space that allows safety, both emotional and physical safety for people.
Thank you. Thank you. I find this coming down to one, this is another subject that boils down to the two words that run my life, that really do control my life, and that is love and kindness. I know it is so used and so overused and so, but it is so true that, if I just, when I went to the group today, there were kids playing ping pong, and just, it's just hard not to love these, 9, 10, 11, 11, 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, it's just impossible not to love them, seeing have such joy and no, just as human beings, that we've lost that. Devin and Terry, you guys, thank you. I'm sure this is going to be my favorite show ever. And I'm going to tell Melissa that we've got to promote the show. Tell all your friends, promote this show. Tell your friends that this is a different show, and you guys, and it's all due to Terry and Devin. Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Okay. So I want to thank everybody who's been tuned in and who's thanking us for this. I want to thank you for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.